What's up and welcome back to Tekin Builds. I'm Ty Campbell and we are diving right into our next build. It is the brand new Vanquish VS4-10 PRO kit. Now earlier this spring we assembled the regular VS4-10 kit, the black edition, and it was an awesome truck. I was super happy with the performance. The assembly was cake, the whole thing, just the fit and finish was primo, everything you'd expect from a high-end company like Vanquish products. I'm really excited about the VS4-10 PRO. There are a lot of really cool updates that Vanquish did on the original VS4-10 chassis. The first and my favorite, of course everyone's favorite probably, is the new VFD transmission. The VFD stands for Vanquish Forward Design. Now this transmission is awesome. It's got some nice scale looks and I love what Vanquish did with this by getting the motor down low and up front. So everything is pushed forward and lower than the original VS4-10. They changed the front bumper and the rear bumper to a more high clearance design and they're plastic, and they also introduced the new F9 axles for this truck. So there's actually an offset F9 in the front and a centered F9 in the rear. They also updated the slider sides. They did away with the aluminum and just went full plastic. They changed the chassis bracing and added a fuel cell receiver box in the back end of the truck. And the electronics layout is a little bit different because of the way that transmission mounts. So we're going to be running the battery on the side and the ESC on the other side. I think this is awesome. It lowers everything down even more and is going to balance the truck out really nicely. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other VS4-10 and run 4-cell, run an RX4 ESC, a Rockford 2300 kV motor. I'm going to drop the pinion down to a 10-tooth just like I did on the other truck because it gave me really good low-end control. We're going to put a T360 steering servo in, and then I already did up a body and I decided to cut the top off the original Origin body. I went with a Knight Customs cage, a Knight Customs interior detail set which includes a new dashboard bezel, some switch paneling, the center console bits, and the new shifter. I also got the door cards, and then I've also got the headrest that I just have not put in yet. And then the rear body post mount is also in the back end there. And I'll probably end up hiding that with a fuel cell eventually. Wheels and tires, I went with what I know. On the last build we used BFG Mud Terrains KM3s by Proline, and I went ahead and got the exact same tires for this build. I went with Vanquish Method 310s for the wheels. I really like the 6-spoke design. They fit the body really nicely, and then I paint matched the ring the same camel yellow. And then I went with the same Crawler Innovations foams inside just because I love the performance of those dual stage Lil Novas. I went with 475 hubs to keep our track width the same. So the stance on both of these trucks is pretty much going to be identical. I'm just super excited to get this box busted open and start our next build. First order of business, obviously, opening the box. So I already went ahead and cut this. Like we've got the interior for our new body, got the kit wheels and tires, the EXTs, and lots of parts bags. Looks like this is everything. Let's go ahead and turn this into a truck now. I love putting VP axles together, and these went together just as easy as any other axle I've ever assembled. I start by putting the ring gear on the locker, locking in all the little screws that hold that on, give it a little bit of grease, pop the locker with the bearings into the third member, screw the third member into the housing, assemble the knuckles with the bearings, put the shafts in, put the knuckles onto the axle housing, install the hexes, and put the drive shaft on the output. The rear axle is even quicker since you don't have to put any of the steering components on, so same process, ring gear onto the locker, put the bearings on the locker and install the bearing carriers, pop that assembly into the third member with some grease on the gears, screw the third member to the housing, install the shafts with the bearings, pop the lockouts on the end of the axle, put the hexes on, install the drive shaft, and finish it off with the oil filler cap. I really love the look of the F9 axle housing. That diamond-shaped pumpkin just really looks tough, like it's made to smack into some rocks and just take all kinds of abuse. The included universal shafts are great for good steering angle and added strength. The Incision drive shafts are also universal shafts, and they have been bomb-proof in the other two trucks that I have them in. I love that they're an offset front axle design, and now it makes perfect sense why Vanquish did that on the original Origin, because they were getting ready for this VFD transmission, which we're going to build here in a little bit. Axles are done, they look sick. Let's move on to getting our chassis done. Now, the chassis goes together super fast. All you have to do is start with the two stamped C-rails, and then we put the front bumper brace slash servo mount up in the front, and then just start putting the hardware in. Start with the panhard bar mount. Slider goes on next to hold the center skid area, and then put the rear fuel cell chassis brace combo unit into the back end. Then we pop the other side on and basically repeat the same procedure. The body posts I set to the same height as the other truck on the front, and then in the rear you have to do a little something different because the Knight Customs body mount, when you chop the top off the Origin body, actually is designed to sit on top of the shock towers. So you take a body post that you're not going to use and cut the round part off that the body would normally sit on, and then insert it upside down into the rear shock towers, and then set the height on that so that the bumper and everything will line up. The next item on the list to finish are the shocks. Now, they come pretty much pre-assembled. I like to tear them down and put a little bit of O-ring slime in the cartridges and then fill them up with oil. I want the 70 weight this time around, so we'll see how that works. Shocks are out of the way. Now, one of the last big projects is the links. Probably everybody's least favorite part of an RC build, but these aren't too bad. The rod ends actually thread onto these pretty easy. I like to use a pair of shock shaft pliers to hold the link steady, and then you can twist them on by hand or stick a wrench through the eyelet and spin them, or you can use an actual shock rod end tool. So now we've got axles done, shocks done, links done, the chassis is pretty much ready to go. All we have to do is build our transmission, and then we can turn this whole thing into a rolling chassis. This was my first time ever building a VFD transmission, and it's a little different than your 3-gear that we're all used to, but I love this design. I love that the motor's up front, it's down low, so everything is pushed forward and lower, and then there's also a overdrive built into the transmission. Now, it's got these bearing plates in the rear end that hold the gears for the rear output and the front output, and they are geared differently from each other. So the front axle being overdriven is actually going to spin at a higher rate of speed than the rear axle. And this helps pull you up over obstacles. It's going to help the truck turn a little bit and kind of drag that rear end around just a little bit. It's not a ton, but it's just enough to where you're going to notice on a truck that has full locked differentials in four-wheel drive. The transmission went together extremely easy. I was super impressed. I love the design. I love the exterior. It looks like a scale transmission, bell housing, and transfer case. I'm just really impressed with just the whole thing. It's awesome. They did a really good job, and I cannot wait to see what it does in this VS4-10. Since I've got the original Origin to compare it directly to this one, that'll be fun testing it out on the rocks. With the transmission fully assembled, it's time to drop it into the chassis. Now, I didn't put a motor in yet, but we will get into that in the next episode when we actually put our electronics in. I just really wanted to get this thing to rolling chassis status, so I threw the transmission in. I got the front and rear bumpers on, and there's some little set screws that holds each front and rear bumper on. Started putting all my links on so that I could get the axles on, and I did the steering link and the drag link, and then started with the panhard bar and the upper link, and then the two lower links for the front axle. And then the rear axle is just your standard 4-link design, so you hook up the top links and the bottom links. Once everything was all linked up to the chassis, I went ahead and started bolting the shocks on. And again, I went with 70 weight in these shocks, so we'll see how that performs. I actually went up to 50 weight in the other truck, and it's pretty good, but I think it can be better. So I definitely think the stiffer the oil, the better in a truck like this. Suspension's silky smooth. I put the slider sides on, which have little pinch points that hold the sides of the body, just like the original 410. Had to bolt the wheels and tires on just so I could get it sitting on its own suspension, and drop that body on just to see where my body posts line up. I really like the attitude this truck has. I just think it looks mean. I'm really excited to get this one out on the trails. That's it for this time. Next time we will get into getting some electronics installed in our truck, and I'm just super excited with the way this build has turned out so far. I think everything is just coming together really nicely. The fit and finish of the kit was second to none, just like the first VS4-10 Origin was. I had a lot of fun putting the new VFD transmission together. I cannot wait to see how that performs out on the rocks. Make sure you like the video if you liked it, share with your friends so they can join in on the fun, subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section. I do check and try and respond to all of them. I'm Ty Campbell. Thanks for watching Tekin Builds. We'll see you next time.